Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We're back on our book, New World Order, Chapter 20. Those who object. But are there others who know that certain Masons worship Lucifer? They do. Are there others who know that Masons want to bring about the New World Order? Are there warnings being issued for any of one who will listen? Captain William Morgan, a Mason who exposed the secrets of the Masonic Lodge in 1826 in his book entitled Freemasonry Exposed. The bane defined as the ruin of our civil institutions is to be found in masonry, already powerful and daily becoming more so. I owe my country an exposure of these dangers. The publication of this book was not looked upon with favor from the Masons after it was made public. The captain paid with his life for his attempts to warn America. The introduction to the original edition identified his murderers as being Masons themselves. It said the author was kidnapped and carried away by a number of Freemasons. The Masons, however, do not believe that Captain Morgan was murdered. Albert G. Mackey, in his encyclopedia, says there are various myths of his disappearance and subsequent residence in other countries. It is certain that there is no evidence of his death that would be admitted in the court of probate. Mm. Even though the Masons deny that the captain was murdered, the newspapers of the day reported that his murder was fact, and it was widely accepted in America that members of the Masons were responsible for his death. As a result of the national fervor over the killing, this nation's first third political party, called the Anti Masons Party, sprung up as a protest to the activities of the Masonic Order. A former Mason and minister from New York, William Preston Vaughan, also attempted to warn America in 1830. If the lodge went unchecked, the United States would have a Masonic monarchy for its government. While we do not, a Masonic church, we do now, a Masonic way to a Masonic heaven, and blood and massacre and destruction to all who subscribe not to support of the monarch. John Quincy Adams, the sixth president of the United States, also had strong feelings about the Masonic order. He wrote, I do consequently and sincerely believe that the order of Freemasonry, if not greatest, is one of the greatest moral and political evils under which the Union is now laboring. He continued by saying, a conspiracy of a few against the equal rights of many, anti Republican. Here he has referencing to the Republican Party, but to the concept of a republic as a form of government in its meaning. I am prepared to complete the demonstrations before God and man that the Masonic oath obligations and penalties cannot by any possibility be reconciled to the laws of morality of Christianity or of the land. Mildred Fillmore, the 13th President of the United States, Millard Fillmore. The Masonic fraternity tramples upon our rights, defeats the administration of justice, and bids defiance to every government which it cannot control. There you have it. Another who spoke out against the Masons was Julius Grant, 18th President. He said, all secret oath bound political parties are dangerous to any nation, no matter how pure or how patriotic the motives and principles which first bring them together. John Marshall, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in the early days of the nation, was a member of the Masonic Lodge. Apparently, he changed his mind and later recanted. He made this charge: the institution of Masonry ought to be abandoned as one capable of much evil and incapable of producing any good which might not be affected by safe and open means. Another warning came from John G. Stevens, a Baptist clergyman who denounced his Masonic ties by publishing his views. An inquiry into the nature and tendency of speculative Masonry. He wrote, Masonry was a state within a state, that one day Masons will overthrow the democratic government of the United States and will crown one of their grand kings as ruler of this nation. Wow. Another minister who came out of Masonry was Charles Finney, who left the order when Captain Morgan was murdered. He wrote, Why I left Freemasonry. He said, In taking these oaths, I have been grossly deceived and imposed upon. Indeed, I came to the deliberate conclusion that my oaths have been procured by fraud and misrepresentation, that the institution was in no respect what I had been informed it was, and it has become more and more irresistibly plain to me that Masonry is highly dangerous to the state and in every way injurious to the Church of Christ. Perhaps the most ringing criticism of the Masons came from Pope Leo XIII, Catholic Pope from 1878 to 1903. He wrote uh, in Humanus Genus, their ultimate purpose, namely the overthrow of the whole religious and political order of the world, which Christian teaching has produced, and the substitution of new state of things in accordance with their ideas, of which the foundations and laws shall be drawn from mere nationalism. The Pope went on further to say the fundamental doctrine of the naturalist is that human nature and human reason ought in all things be a mistress and a guide. The naturalists teach that marriage belongs to the genus of commercial contracts, which can rightly be revoked by the will of those who made them, and that the civil rulers of the state have power over the matrimonial bond. So the Pope correctly noted that Masons were committed to creating a new world order. They wanted to create a new state of things by overthrowing the whole religious and political order. Then he identified the new world they wanted to replace it with, one based upon reason. He continued his discussion of why he was concerned about Masons, their endeavor to obtain equality and community of all goods by the destruction of every distinction of rank and property. Here, the Pope states that the Masons shared the vision of Karl Marx, the communist, who wanted to abolish private property. The Pope said that Masons wanted to destroy the distinctions of property. The Pope's fate after he wrote these warnings to the world was perhaps revealed in Time magazine article June 18, 1984. He wrote, There were whispers about how poison killed King XIII in 1903. Another attempted to warn the world about the Masonic order was Bernard Fay, who wrote a book entitled Revolution and Freemasonry. He said, the new masonry did not aim to destroy churches, but with the aid of progress or ideas, it prepared to replace them. According to Mr. Fay, the Masonic religion wanted to replace Christian religion. Another author is Arthur Waite, who wrote this line in the book, The Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. He said, The Latin Church, apparently meaning the Catholic Church, has agreed to regard Freemasonry as those forces which are at work in the world against the church in that world. But more current examples of Christian churches warning its members as well as the world can be located. It is not just the Catholic Church which is concerned about membership to the Masonic order. The Orthodox Presbyterian Church met at Rochester, New York in 1942, and they issued a report on the ancient order of free and accepted Masons. Masonry is a religious institution and as such is definitely anti-Christian. Membership in the Masonic fraternity is inconsistent with Christianity. Furthermore, another church, the Lutheran Church in Missouri, passed a resolution in 1975 calling for specialized literature for persons who belong to anti Christian sects and cults. One of the six booklets that resulted from the call was one on Freemasons called How to Respond to the Lodge. But one of the more dramatic studies of the Masons occurred a short time ago in England when the Church of England released a report on them after a summer session in July 14th, 1987. Church of England leaders overwhelmingly endorsed a report yesterday that called Freemasonry rites blasphemous. The report, Freemasonry and Christianity, are they compatible? Said some Christians found Masonic rituals disturbing and evil. Perhaps the least summary of the whole concern about the Masonic came from ex-Mason Edward Ronan in his book The Master's Carpet. He said, Masonry is a system which has not the least shadow of support, either from history, from scripture, from reason, or common sense, but in fact is diametrically opposed to them all. But men of rank, wealth, office, and power still join it. Chapter 21, Albert Pike. He wrote Morals and Dogma. Great book. Albert Pike. One of Masonic writers frequently cited in the study, historian he is, as being an expert on Masonic affairs was Albert Pike, the sovereign Grand Commander of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry from 1859 to his death in 1891. He has been described by fellow Masons in a rather flattering manner. Carl Claudy wrote, Pike was one of the greatest geniuses Freemasonry has ever known. He was a teacher of the hidden truths of Freemasonry. Manly Hall wrote, Albert Pike, who was gathered ample evidence of the excellence of the doctrines promulgated by the mysteries, and Dr. Robert Watts, a fellow 33rd degree Mason, said, the world's greatest Masonic scholar, and he praised the tremendous genius of Albert Pike. Perhaps Pike's finest accomplishment is Morals and Dogma. I got it from the 1800 grade book. He tells a lot of the secrets and symbolism of Freemasonry. Published in 1871 by the Southern Council of the 33rd Degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States. There is some disagreement as to whether or not this book is to be read by all Masons seeking higher degrees inside the Masonic order. This author was told by members of the Mason in Tucson in 1985 that the book was still given to all Masons for their perusal. However, Rex Hutchins, a 32nd degree Mason and the author of A Bridge to Light for Masons, he said in 1988, Morals and Dharma was traditionally given to the candidate as a gift upon his receipt of the 14th degree. I didn't know that. His use of the word was implies that it's no longer given to Masonic candidates. However, Mr. Hutchins had words of praise for it. He wrote, contained within these pages are some of the most profound teachings of the right. Henry Clausen, one of Mr. Pike's successors, he wrote, an inspired and classical completion of Pike's own research. Other Masonic scholars who had come after him have revered his name. Albert McKay said, his standing as a Masonic author and historian was most distinguished, and his untiring zeal was without parallel. The Masonic order as a body must have thought highly of Mr. Pike as well because they permitted him to rewrite the Scottish Rite rituals. Wow. On June 20th, 1867, the president received a delegation of the Scottish Rite officials in his bedroom at the White House. Because you have to understand, since like most presidents are 33rd degree Mason, Ronald Reagan was, even Trump is a Mason. I don't think he's 33rd degree. Hell, I don't know, but but most, yeah, they up there. They up there. If they not like Bill Clinton, I don't think he was a Mason, but he was a Rhodes Scholar. So they have some sort of initiation process. Um, but the important revelation is that the general had testified that the President of the United States was a subordinate to Albert Pike in Masonry. And the importance of that fact can be gathered from the oath that the initiate takes during the third degree, called the Master Mason's degree, inside the Blue Lodge. The initiate takes the following oath. For more, I do promise and swear that I will obey all regular signs, summonses, or tokens given, handed out, sent, or thrown to me from the hand of Brother Master Mason or from the body of a just lawfully constituted lodge of such. The capitalized words, when taken together, read, I do promise I will obey all summonses given to me from the hand of a Brother Master Mason. That means that the President of the United States had to take orders from Albert Pike should he order him to do so. The significance of that startling proposition will become more evident as additional evidence of just what Mr. Pike believed in is presented in further chapters of the study. There is a hierarchy in the United States, and presidents who are Masons take orders from other Masons. Ooh, you can't make this up. Wow. Mm. Chapter 22. HIRAM ABIF. The Masons have wrapped an initiation ceremony around a legend involving an individual named HIRAM ABIF. The Masons have constructed this legend themselves from two brief occurrences to him in the Bible. The information on Hiram comes from Maggie's Encyclopedia. When King Solomon was about to build a temple to Jehovah, called Solomon's Temple, the difficulty of obtaining skillful workmen to superintend and to execute the archaeological part of the undertaking was such that he found it necessary to request of his friend and ally Hiram, King of Tyre, the use of some of his most able builders. Hiram, king, willingly complied with his request and dispatched Hiram out of Tyre. The Bible in the first book of Kings, chapter 7, verse 13, says Hiram Abif was a widow's son and was filled with wisdom and understanding. The Masons claim that Hiram Abif was a master mason, and possessed the secrets of the degree, secrets that he could not share with his fellow workers. The reason for that was because the other workers at the temple were apprentice masons, not entitled to share of the secrets of the master mason. 15 fellow crafts, masons, okay, 15 fellow crafts, seeing the temple about to be completed and being desirous of obtaining the secrets of the master mason, whereby they might travel into foreign countries, work, and receive master's wages, entered into a horrid conspiracy to extort from the master or take his life. 12 of them recanted. The other three, however, persisted in their murderous design. According to legend, Hiram was slain by these three ruffians at high 12 because he refused to share the secrets. The three ruffians were named Jabelo, and Jabelon. The Masons admit that the death of Hiram is a purely symbolic event. Therefore, the student must look elsewhere for an explanation of what his symbolic death means. In addition, they further admit that the story is not based completely on the two brief mentions of Hiram in the Bible. Thus, the biblical account of the story of Hiram is occasionally at variance with the legend as told in Messianic literature. The remaining parts of the legend of Hiram are not pertaining to the study. However, it will be helpful for further discussion later on in this book. Rex Hutchins, a 32nd degree Mason, has placed an important piece in the puzzle in his book, A Bridge to Light. He said, what are the symbolic meanings of the attacks upon Hiram? Hiram is first accosted at the south gate of the temple, where the instrument of the attack is rule. In Greek, the word for rule, whether a measuring instrument or a code of conduct, is canon. Thus, we see the bureaucracy of the early church establishing a canon law to regulate conduct. This law was to be obeyed with unquestioned loyalty. Hence, it is an apt symbol of suppression of freedom of speech, which might question the divinity and justice of these laws. What are you looking for? It's in the purse. And put my money back. Therefore, Heron with the rule is stuck where the organs of speech are. It might be on the bed. I don't know where it is. Man, you always. The instrument of attack at the west gate of the temple was the square. It represents the merger of civil and religious power intended to control man's emotions, telling him not only what he can do, but also what he can believe. The hem is stuck near the heart, the traditional seat of affections. The setting maw, an instrument of brute force, is a fitting symbol of the blind, unreasoning bond. It fears the force of intellect and seeks the destruction of the products of the mind. Hiram is killed at the east gate by a blow to the head, the seat of the intellect. So Mr. Hunches is telling his reader that the ruffians that killed Hiram were not individuals seeking secrets of masonry from Hiram, the master mason, but were concealed symbols of the church and the state, and the forces fearing the power of a man's reason. This is an amazing revelation. It is rare that the Masons share the exact interpretation of their secrets as they have done in this instance. Remember that the contents of Mr. Hutchins' book have been approved by the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. This explanation has official sanction. They want us to know that the enemies of the Masons of the Church, the enemies of the Masons are the Church, the state, and opposition to man's reason. In another part of his book, Mr. Hutchins provides the reader with another explanation of symbols. This additional explanation of the true meaning of the symbols is strikingly similar. The master harem is a symbol of intelligence, liberty, and truth, and assassins are the symbols of tyranny, ignorance, and intolerance of fanaticism. So he equates the church and the state with tyranny, ignorance, intolerance, and fanaticism, as will be shown in other parts of this book. The Masons have pledged themselves to avenge the death of Hiram. They have pledged themselves to destroy the state and the church. So the real purpose of Masons have been discovered. The Masons are not a philanthropic organization out to assist men to better themselves. They have a hidden purpose, and it takes but little fortitude to discover what their purpose is. Their purpose is to destroy organized religion and the state, just like the Illuminati and the Communist Party. They have said so in their own literature. There can be no doubt. Additional evidence that the above interpretation of Mr. Hutchins' comments is correct will follow. And that was deep. Let me grab this and this. We gotta get out of here. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We're gonna finish up our book. All right, I'm about to go to bed. I gotta go to work tomorrow.